Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Super Paranormal Chronicles. Tonight, I'm delighted to have with me Chris Moore, who is a UFO investigator. Chris, welcome. Good evening.
Well, thank you, Leah. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm absolutely thrilled. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and look, let's not tell anybody about the technical issues that we've had for the last 45 minutes.
That's right.
They don't want to know about that.
Just logged in. It was flawless.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Chris, if you want to just start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in UFOs, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, I've been interested in UFOs. I'll go that way because I've been interested in that since I was small. I can't even remember the beginnings of it all. I remember as a kid, family sitting around telling stories at campfires. My grandma and my dad and mom used to always like watching for satellites when we were out camping in Ontario. So I remember always hearing stories around the fire and hearing stories around the when the parties and get-togethers. So I was always interested in it. I remember must have been the late 70s, they had a TV show that was sort of based on Project Blue Book. And I remember I would make my mom let me watch it every Sunday night, but it gave me nightmares. I was terrified of what the show showed, but I had to watch every week. So I was always interested. And at my local public library, I grew up in a little town about an hour outside Toronto, and my little public library had a very small sort of paranormal section, occult and paranormal they had. And I read every single book in there over and over, to the point where when they updated their catalog, they gave me their old books because they did no one else. I was renewing them more than anyone else ever read them. So wow. I had all their old books. So I was always interested in it. But as life went on and had to find a career, I started working in investigations. I worked as an intelligence officer for CSIS, and then I moved to the provincial government in Alberta, where I worked as a human rights investigator, and now I work in education, and I'm about to move over to consumer investigations, actually. So I've been always working as sort of an investigation side of things, and I just kind of followed along the UFO world sort of from a distance and kind of didn't really watch it too much or pay attention too much. And then my wife and I moved out to the country in 2018 to an acreage outside Edmonton, about an hour outside Edmonton. And we started, we could see the sky a lot more than we could in town. And we started almost immediately seeing things out here. And I started remembering all the things as a kid that I had read and was interested in. And sort of parallel to all this, I'd always wanted as a hobby to have sort of a podcast or tell stories. And I thought, this might be the way to combine the investigation background I had with my interest in this sort of stuff. And so I started kind of putting together a little sort of podcast about that. So I kind of came into it kind of from two different angles at the same time, I guess.
Right. And yeah, I always loved how people have different avenues on how they got interested in it. And yesterday, the wife and I were watching this really hokey 1950s sci-fi movie, and it had these UFOs coming in. It's sort of like you could tell that they're like 3 foot off the ground. It's like, yeah, that's not how it is. So one thing that I've always been interested in is like UFOs and the unknown and the paranormal, and I actually did some research, but I already knew the answer, which was really bizarre, on the very first alien story ever to be written.
Okay.
Would you have any idea who wrote that?
Well, it depends on, I guess it depends on what you call an alien story, but there's some very, very old ones. Like, do you count Ezekiel in the Bible who saw the wheels in the sky?
Well,
an account?
Okay. Yeah. If I say Invasion from Mars, that might give you an idea.
Oh, Invasion from Mars, the sci-fi story? Oh, yeah, H.G. Wells. You're talking about H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. War of the Worlds. And I'm a big H.G. Wells fan.
Okay.
And that was 1897.
Yes.
First. Yeah.
And I
a bit
think,
before our time, roughly, I have to say.
About the same time, Jules Verne had the first Men in the Moon, I think.
Yes.
So it was kind of in the same period. Yeah.
And it's interesting that it's... Exactly, yeah. And it's interesting that people have... these stories have grown, there's been more evidence, but there's not really been any concrete clarification.
No.
It's always been, well, it could be this, it could be that, yeah, etc. Yeah, and that's what's missing. Yeah, 100% clarification.
Yeah, and I don't know that we're going to ever get 100% clarification. That is exactly what's missing, and this is why I thought like intelligence work fits perfectly into this sort of thing, because intelligence operates in sort of a gray world of probabilities. Like, it's the balance of probabilities look like this might be what's going on, whereas like the criminal investigation side, it's like there's a person, they did something, here's the facts. The UFO UAP thing, it kind of falls into that gray probabilities thing. They're hundreds of sightings every year. One of the people I spoke to was Chris Rutkowski, who does the survey, the Canadian UFO survey every year, and he was saying, the last year there was about 800 sightings in Canada that got reported. Of those, it's almost every year roughly the same percent, about somewhere between 10 and 8% are not explainable. The rest can kind of get explained as stars or shooting stars or Starlink satellites or drones or whatever. But there's always that little fraction that can't be explained. And it's whether we can't explain with what we know now or whether they just can't be explained. I don't know. You always have to live with a little bit of uncertainty in that world. There's always going to be that little bit of uncertainty.
Yeah, I do love it when you go onto you watch some of these TV shows, and unexplained caught on camera, and people are filming this footage, and you're going, yeah, that's the Starlink train. Like, no,
that happens a lot.
People
a lot of them are that.
Yeah, people don't know, and it's like it's people like yourself that have to try to prove the existence.
That's right.
It's like me investigating for ghosts and spirits. There's a lot of stuff that happens that's unexplained, but you can't put your finger on it and prove that particular existence. And that's what makes it fun.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's what keeps it a mystery this whole time. And I remember years and years ago, maybe 30 years ago, I read Carl Jung, the psychologist, wrote a book on flying saucers. Just towards the end of his life, he wrote this book, and he summed it up nicely, and I think that's what makes it all worth investigating. He said, this is happening around the world, these flying saucers back in the 40s and 50s. Either it's a real thing and it needs to be investigated, or there's a mass delusion or something's going on where all over the world people are seeing something, in which case it needs to be investigated. So either way, something's going on that needs to be investigated. So I think it's worth looking into no matter what.
Oh, for sure. So are you one of these people that people will contact you and say, I think I've seen a UFO? Or are you the type of person that investigates already recorded incidents?
It's a bit of both. I'm only at the beginning of the people contacting me sort of stuff. I would like that. Yes, I'd like that very much. I'm just sort of getting to that kind of thing. But one of the other people I've spoken to is Christian Stepien, who's the chief technical officer at the National UFO Reporting Center in the United States. And they have no one in Canada looking into any of their Canadian sightings. And so he's been kind of giving me, here, why don't you go look at this one? Why don't you go look at this one? So they're fairly new, but they were reported there, and they kind of get fed to me to go take a peek at them. So it's kind of a bit of both. Now, some of those older ones, like the big famous ones, like Roswell, or in Canada, like Shag Harbor, or Stephen Mahalik in Manitoba in the 1967, those are very, very well investigated already. It's kind of, there's a lot of things that people know about them, and there's still a lot of unknowns about those sort of cases, and it would be me adding to more noise if I looked into those as well. But there's certainly a lot going on now. Like just this last Christmas, the whole drone thing that was happening everywhere. That was a very interesting moment. So there's a lot of things happening now still that are going on that need new eyes.
Yeah. So I might be telling you something that you don't know. However, there's a very good friend of mine that lives out in Nova Scotia, and is an ex-RCMP officer, and he created a company, if you like, called PPRI, the Paranormal Phenomena Research and Investigation. So they do courses on ghosts and poltergeists, and they have a guy called Chris Stiles. I don't know if you met him. He investigates the Shag Cove incident. But what PPRI have done recently, they've created a unit, if you like, called the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Unit mandate. And they actually are investigating UFOs in Canada. Have you actually heard of them?
I have heard of them actually, and I watched your interview with the head of that program just the other day on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I do know them, and actually Andrew, who's their guy who's in charge of their UAP division,
Yeah.
I'm speaking to him. I was supposed to speak to him last week, and it didn't happen. So I'm going to be speaking to him in the next week or so. And he's an interesting fellow. He was in the military out here in the prairies and caught a few things on radar that are of interest. So yeah, I do know them very well. Yeah, I don't know them, but I certainly have heard of them.
It just proves how much of a very small world it is.
You know,
sort of like, yeah, I know them, you know them, and then we know. Yeah, for sure.
It's a small world. Okay, it's a very friendly world because I can tell you, before I started this, I was just because I wanted to do something and I wanted something I could do from my basement without having to go anywhere. I started a history podcast on rock music, and so I was following the first season's the 50s, second season will be the 60s, you know, Elvis and just bit by bit. And I contacted a lot of Canadian producers, DJs, musicians, and no one wants to talk to me. No one will talk to you because, you know, who are you? You're just some guy. But in this world, everyone wants to talk. Everyone's open to sharing. And really, that's how that's how knowledge is spread. It's the openness and the sharing of it. It's not hoarding things. It's keeping open channels with everyone. And in this world, it's very, very open. Everyone is so friendly and so accommodating. It's amazed me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because I started this podcast in February and I was thinking, how am I going to get all this content? We're now starting June. I've released episode 17, I believe. This month, I've got another 11 interviews.
Wow.
And I've got enough content to last me until October already.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's like, yeah, people are just coming out the woodwork. And it's like, I started off going bi-weekly and I'm now going weekly because I've got that much content.
That's amazing.
And it's ridiculous. It's crazy. So I'll definitely put you in touch with a few people.
Fantastic. I would really
most definitely
that. Yeah. I was amazed by how quickly people were getting back to me that I thought, oh, I'll never hear from these people. Like I said, the rock world, and this was about a year ago now, a year and a bit. I just one night said, I started emailing Geddy Lee's agent and Alanis Morissette's agent and DJs and producers and I talked to a few and it was really interesting discussions, but most just never heard from ever again. And then almost everyone I sent out an email to, I've spoken to. It's been incredible.
Yeah, it's like I've got a guy who's, in fact, it's two people that have actually encountered alien abductions.
Oh, interesting.
So I've not actually interviewed them yet, but that's going to be extremely good fun and interesting.
Yeah, I've never spoken to anyone who's gone through that sort of thing. That is interesting.
Yeah, and I was just talking about UFOs, and then he came out with the time that I got abducted. I'm like,
wow.
I'm sorry, what? So that's going to be another interview. So that'll be really exciting. So if somebody reaches out to you or you come across a potential sighting, what kind of evidence do you consider when you're investigating?
Yeah, photos are always great, of course, but it's a funny thing. The way everyone has a camera on their phones, and the cameras are very good on our phones these days, but they're not good at taking pictures of lights in the sky. They just don't turn out. They're shaky, or you can't see them, or people always zoom in and you can't see anything but blur. So they're not great photographs. Usually panned out photos, like if you can see the skylines, you can get some kind of scale. That's nice. But other than that, if other people are a witness, it seems like a lot of sightings, and this I'm going back to the Canadian UFO survey here, but a lot of sightings are individuals on their own, not very often backed up by anyone else. So if there's someone else around who sees it, that's always good. Some people who have the sort of the wherewithal to think, okay, what direction am I looking? What time is it? That helps as well to kind of narrow and pinpoint things down. Those sorts of things are always good. But most of the time, it's just sort of pay attention when you're looking, like, how high do you think it was? Hold your hand out. Was it 3 fingers above the horizon or 6 fingers? Little things like that just kind of help. Can help narrow down. Was it a plane? Was it a drone? Was it a balloon? Those sorts of things kind of help.
Cool. So, do you have like a go-to UFO bag, investigation bag? So, with all your gadgets and your cameras or toys or whatever in?
I wish I could say yes. That'd be so cool, but I don't. It's the same stuff I use every day. It'll be my phone, which has I have a little GIS program, so I can use like mapping to make notes on. It's actually an engineering program for free, like an open source engineering program. But I use it for this sort of thing, where okay, when I'm standing here looking this direction, and it has like real world satellite imagery, I can put notes on, almost like a Google Maps for your phone that you use yourself. I use that. I have all the usual programs and apps that everyone has, like the flight trackers. You can see, okay, what planes are going on. Heavens
Yeah,
above, so you can see what are the constellations at this time, or star systems, or whatever. Lots of satellite tracking programs, because there's so much junk floating around up there that could be easily misidentified as something anomalous.
yeah.
Yeah, the usual stuff. I wish I had something cool, but I don't.
Well, I did see one TV show that I think it was called a DAP camera, which basically scans the skies, and if it sees something, it will go, "This is an aircraft. This is a drone." And it's
Yeah.
like, "This is unidentified. I want one of them." But they're
Yes.
about, well, the wife looked into it, and they're a couple of $1,000s. So it's like, maybe for Christmas, but what? Not not like just now.
No, unfortunately, my budget doesn't allow for that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I am actually, and that's someone else I was speaking to in the States, the UFO or UAP DAP guys who make them. I'm speaking to them.
yeah.
He's put me in touch with some people in Canada who have them. A couple of them reached out. They're still hesitant of whether they want to talk or not, because a lot of them have their own personal stories of things they've experienced, and they're not sure if they want to share yet or not. But I'm working on a couple of them. I'm more interested in just their experience with the device. Like, how does it work? Has it been a lot of misidentifications, or how does that whole thing work? Because they look really neat.
So yeah, so if you get the chance to get a DAP camera, get me one too. Okay,
Okay, I'll
the
work on
that's
it.
the
You bet.
deal. That's the deal.
Okay, you bet.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was wondering how
So,
hard it would be to make one. I was looking at them and thinking, okay, there's a few devices here, but our phones have most of the apps that you could use to identify things. I was wondering how
yeah.
hard it would be to make one, but powering it's the
Okay,
issue.
so I'll yeah, I'll if I give you a week, I expect you to do some homework and come back to me and let me know how doable this is.
It'll be me in a chair
So
with my phone is what it'll be.
yeah, and that chair rotates as
That's
well,
right.
so
Yeah,
you
that's
can go
right.
round in
That's
circles.
right.
Yeah. So I know you've spoken about drones, you've spoken about Chinese lanterns, but in your personal opinion, what do you think is the most likely explanation for unidentified flying objects if they're not of alien in nature?
Sure. Yeah, I would say it's funny enough, but lately drones seem to be a big thing, like personal hobby drones. They're everywhere. I live, like I said, an hour outside the city of the country, and every now and then I see one flying over, and I don't know who the heck out here has one. People, I guess farmers may use it to patrol their fields. I don't know, but they're everywhere. They're everywhere. So they are very common. And you also mentioned the Starlink thing. A lot of people are seeing them and not knowing what they are. Whether it's the train itself right after launch before they sort of slowly disperse, or I guess this newest thing that people are kind of aware of are the ones that are sort of in geosynchronous orbit, catch the sun every now and then and flare up. So you see like a bright flare. And since there's so many, I lost count of how many Starlink satellites are up there now. There'll be a lot of these little flares happening, I guess, all over the place.
Oh,
You have to
yeah,
see
for
that at the right
sure. Yeah.
time. But so they're going to be out there too. Yeah, so I think those drones, Starlink, are probably the two biggest things right now that a lot of people are seeing and not understanding what they're seeing. Especially drones, because they flap, they
Yeah.
move, they buzz around, they flash.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've got a friend that lives out, because I'm in Ottawa. So I've got a friend who lives just outside in the sticks, and you go into his garden, and he's a big UFO spotter. He's big into his astronomy, and he's showing me all the constellations. And then one night we did actually see the Skylink, the train going past, and it's like it was so obvious, and it was so cool to see because you don't see
Yeah,
them all the time.
yeah. I remember the first time
Yeah,
seeing one. I had just come home I work in the city, and I had just come home. The sun was just going down, and I saw a satellite going overhead. And out here where I am, they always go on the same path. It's always sort of southwest to northeast here. They fly over that way almost every single time. And I saw the first time I was seeing, I saw a satellite. I thought, oh, that's a really bright satellite. And then there was one like a few seconds behind. Oh, there's another one. That's funny. It's the same path. Then another one, another one. And it took me a minute to realize, oh, I read about these. And then since then, I see the trains in a little bunch, and I see them as they slowly spread out. So I see them quite often here. But speaking of someone seeing them, we have some horses here. So every fall, we don't have enough land to grow hay. So we have hay delivered. And every fall, this farmer guy brings them, and he comes after hours and brings it at night. And I was telling him, well, I think there's a starling going over a train sometimes right about now. And he goes, what's that? And I said, oh, what's these satellites? Well, look, there they are now. And he looked up and he could not believe his eyes. There's little, the train of lights, like a little bus going across the sky. He couldn't believe it. And if I hadn't told him what it was, he wouldn't have known. He would have lost his mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are pretty impressive.
Yeah, I do find that some people are completely oblivious to technology. Yeah, okay, they know who Elon Musk is, they know what SpaceX is.
Yeah.
But when they see something like that in the sky, it's like, what the hell's that? Yeah.
That's right.
And they've got no idea.
Yeah.
So talking about SpaceX and stuff, I know at the beginning of the year they had like an open government discussion, shall we say. And I remember one of the comments was, can you confirm the existence of alien life? And this guy actually blatantly came out and said, I cannot answer that question. What does that kind of mean to you?
Yeah, it's the funny thing about the UFO UAP world is you can fall down into it very quickly and lose all touch with reality. And like, oh my god, they're covering this up. Oh, they're using the technology for this. And then you pull back for a second and you start looking at who's saying it and where they're getting their information from. Sometimes, and that's in these specific instances, the stories can kind of go back to the same origins. Like they didn't see it themselves, but someone told them about it. And who told them about it? Well, someone who read this article. And it always goes back to the same kind of beginnings, which are themselves are questionable. So I don't know. When I see these hearings, I sometimes wonder, okay, what is really happening here? Because I don't know that we're getting anything solid. We're kind of getting rehashed old stories, repackaged and brought back again. Now, that being said, I don't know. I don't know. I go back and forth on this. And it happens like everything else in the UFO world. It's one thing or it's one or the other thing, but both are interesting. So do I believe the government is hiding things? Yeah, they hide all kinds of things. Sometimes not deliberately. Sometimes it's just the way bureaucracies work. You don't even know what you don't know sometimes, and things are just buried in there. And when it comes to the United States government and the UFO situation, I don't know. Oftentimes I get a sense that if they are covering up, it's more covering up their own ignorance of things than anything else, because they would cause such panic if people knew that these things are intruding in our airspace, things are flying around our nuclear sites or other ships, and we don't know what they are. So instead, we'll downplay it. At the same time, I'll go back for a second here. There's an old line I remember from an Ian Fleming James Bond book I read way back when I was a kid. I think it was Goldfinger, and it was, if it happens once, it's happenstance. If it happens twice, it's coincidence. But if it happens 3 times, it's enemy action. And there have been so many times over the years in the UFO world with the military where, all the reports got lost or all the communications were deleted, even though they're not supposed to be. And it keeps happening. Happens too many times to be an accident or a one-off. So you start thinking, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know that they have technology, because if they did, why aren't they using it? Like, if these countries have access, why aren't they using it to, why is our economy in such bad shape when we could have all these things that they could even sell it and make a lot of money? I don't know. It seems like it's not being used if they had it. At the same time, why is there such an active cover-up? And it seems like there is. So I go both ways. You don't know.
Okay. Yeah. And that's really weird because you mentioned about potential for cover-ups and things, but do they have something but they don't know what they've got? That could be one of the things as well. And then you mentioned about technology, but then people think that the stealth aircraft is alien technology. So,
and I certainly heard that, and certainly back when the bomber and then the fighter came out back in whatever that was, the 90s, I guess, late 90s maybe. everyone said those were the triangles that people were seeing all this time. It was testing of those, but they seem to be testing them in strange places. If that is true, like Belgium and over cities. And okay, well, why are you testing them where everyone can see you testing it? That's not very secret. So I have heard that sort of thing as well. I always hear things like, well, the Russians have exact same information that the Americans have, and the same access. They've also been in contact with aliens, with the alien technology, but at the same time, like they're struggling in whatever they're trying to do in Ukraine. Like, why aren't they, why did they struggle in Afghanistan, or why they could have done more and they didn't? So why not? Why hold back? I don't know. I'm more inclined to think, and this only comes from my own working in the government. You can't keep secrets. You can't, it's just,
yeah, exactly. So one thing that I always used to find really funny was the definition of a UFO. So people are like, okay, if you don't know what it is, it's unidentified. If it's in the sky, it's flying. If it's on the land, it's not flying. So then you just got to know from the UFO, because it's, okay, you recognize it, you take that away. It's flying, but it's landed. You take that away. So you've now got an object.
Yeah.
So what would be your definition of a stereotypical UFO or an unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP?
Yeah. For me, the UAP, particularly because of the anomalous part, it has to be different than what normally gets seen. And certainly in the biggest, most generic version, yeah, it could be anything, a light object, anything moving around in the sky, and we don't know what it is. The anomalous part kind of adds to it, but it's out of the ordinary as well. So for me, it's got to be something like moving at angles or at speeds that, something floating in the wind shouldn't be moving. But that requires a little bit more investigation than simply seeing it. So the most generic level is just seeing something that, you're right, you don't know what it is. I think it takes a little bit more to that, though. It has to be something that's acting or behaving in ways that either look like they're controlled or are not in our own possible physics at the moment. Like we can't move at those angles or those speeds, or we can't go to the horizon and back, or up to 80,000 feet and down in a second. Things like that are just outside of what we can practically do with our own technology right now.
Yeah. And I think a perfect example of that is the Tic Tac video. Yeah, two professionals in an aircraft seeing something at whatever 1,000 feet they were at. They couldn't identify it, and it was doing things outside of normal phenomena.
Yeah.
So perfect example.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, that's also a good example of what's important to me in the whole process as well, which is the witnesses. And I know witness testimony is never trustworthy, as we know in criminal from watching Law and Order or whatever. We always told you can't trust witnesses, but they're a big part of this. Obviously, humans are a big part of the story of what's going on, of what we see and how we interpret it. And in those cases, it's particularly important. I've read all the Metabunk website where they debunk those sightings and say, here's what it is. It's a jet at a distance. But we're talking about professional pilots who are trained to identify those sorts of things in a blink. You got to trust their own witness testimony that they have seen something that's not what normally they would see. They would know a plane. You would think they would know a plane signature.
Yeah.
This wasn't that. So the witness testimony as well is important, I think, in those cases. But yeah, the Tic Tac is a great one. I think, is it the Tic Tac or the Go Fast, the one that goes in the water and out again? Or that's the one in Puerto Rico, the Aqua Dia one in Puerto Rico. The water part's really fascinating to me, because now that I think, when they start talking about these submerged objects that they've also been seeing, I started thinking about all the stories from like Unsolved Mysteries as a kid and onwards, and there are a lot of water-based things now that I think about it. In the ocean or the Great Lakes or a lot of round water bodies, there's a lot of water-based things. So I think that's interesting as well.
And you've just actually taken away one of my next kind of questions about USOs, unidentified submersible objects. That was never used to be a thing, in modern day language, but now it's used as often as what UFO and UAP are.
Definitely. I think it's Richard Dolan is a historian of the UFO world, and he's done some amazing books in the past. And a brand new one just came out only about the submerged object phenomenon, because it is fascinating too. And think about the big famous one in Canada is the Shag Harbor one that went into the ocean, and everyone thought, it crashed. But maybe it didn't. Maybe if we were thinking about submerged things, maybe there's something submerged that's going on. But yeah, the water thing is fascinating to me as well. And I don't know why. Well, I think I do know why, actually, and it has to do with a lot of the things. Is that our detection equipment has also improved dramatically over the last few decades, and we are more aware of. We're monitoring oceans for sea level rise, for storms brewing, and so we're monitoring things a lot more closely, even outside the military, than we had before. So I think we're starting to see a lot more. Same with the aerial phenomenon. After those that Chinese balloon incident, I think NORAD has stepped up their monitoring abilities, and now they're picking up a lot more than they ever did before because we're fine tuning our monitoring of the skies. And so I think over time, our own detection equipment is also improving, so we're seeing more.
I'm completely lost for words now. That was a great answer. It completely threw me. So, what do you think the future holds for UFO research? Like, because obviously the government are doing their bit, and if we can believe them, yay or nay, there's a lot more reportings because people have the technology right in their pocket now.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the future holds for concrete UFO research?
Well, I definitely think that the citizen-based approach is very good. I talked to a fellow named Alejandro Rojas, who's a writer in the United States, who's done some shows and also does an ongoing blog and newsletters. And he's also part of the Enigma app. That app, the private company, they made an app for people to post videos. People can make comments. It's almost like a Reddit for UFOs. And so that's kind of handy. I have it on mine, and I look at it all the time because it updates me all the time. It says someone in your area has seen something, and it tells you where and when, and you can go look. And so the community-based thing is really helpful. People reporting and people also, debunking, I guess the way to say it is also helpful. People could say, oh, here, actually, I've seen many of those where someone reports a spiral in the sky and says, well, that's because a rocket launch happened over North America and it's wandered over Europe and it's out of control. Those kinds of things are very important. So I think the community-based science is going to be good. Also, things like the Galileo Project at Harvard, which is run by Avi Loeb, who's the head of the astrophysics department there. And it brings in like hardcore scientists to look at extraterrestrial phenomena. And it was the Oumuamua comet or whatever that was that triggered him to look into this stuff. But they're looking at all kinds of things. And so I think it's like a serious scientific look at things is also helping things a lot, because before it was always, ridiculed and it was always like pushed aside. To get like actual serious scientists writing papers about it and spreading a bit of a knowledge base about it also helps from the more academic side of things. In terms of the government, I think, I would like to say yes. They have so much, especially the American military has so much money they could find things, but I don't know. They burn their bridges so often. I don't know if we'd ever trust anything they ever say. Everything's always either a psyop or it's a cover up or a trick or some sort. So I don't know if we'd ever believe anything that they say.
And that's the problem nowadays. There's so many conspiracy theories, and there's so much that people bring out with AI, for example. God. The good old-fashioned Polaroid camera, is perfect evidence. But if someone shows you a video, you've got no way of knowing that it's been tampered with or if it's AI created.
Yeah, not as a general user, you don't. Yeah, people with good, fantastic editing equipment and background in that area could, but I couldn't. You're right, and we wouldn't know. And the AI thing, you're right. If you just happen to cruise onto YouTube and look at any kind of shorts or any videos posted, so much of it's just AI generated, and it looks amazing. But then you think, wow, that's amazing. Why has no one reported on this in the news? Because that's not real. The AI thing is kind of polluting things a lot,
Yeah, for sure. And you can say the same in the paranormal world as well. There's so many pictures and videos nowadays, and I call myself a skeptic with an open mind, and even I will go, if that door's closing by itself, I want to see what's behind the door, because you only kind of get a snippet of the video or something that's not right. And even if you want to talk about cryptids, me and the wife have a running joke where, oh my God, there's something over there, quick, set the camera to blurry.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
because like with all this technology, why is everything so blurry? It just does not make any
It
sense.
always is. I know one of my favorite comedians is a guy out of Montreal named Ryan George, and he had one of his little skits he made was about aliens and like crop circles. Like, we should make circles that'll show those humans, and so, but we should also appear, but only in front of people with substandard cameras. Yeah.
See, that's the answer. That's exactly what we're going to do.
That's right.
So, one thing that I've noticed talking to you, you've got some books over your right shoulder. So, I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you have a book on this subject, I want you to point it out to me.
Okay. There's a couple other bookcases over here, so I don't know if I can see them all. Okay.
Okay. Do you have a book on Shag Harbor?
I don't have a book on Shag Harbor. I have an electronic one. I have a Kobo with a ton of books in it, and I have some on there, but no physical book on it. No.
I was about to tell you to leave then.
Oh.
What? What about Roswell?
Gosh, I did. I don't see it here. I have a bunch in my garage as well. So I was a PhD student in literature, and so I had books and books and books, and I moved so often. It got so annoying to all my family to have to carry all these boxes that I put them in storage, and I rotate them every now and then. So it's in there somewhere. I had that one.
Okay, so I've got a whole list, but I won't do that because all we'll see is the back of your head for the next 5 minutes.
Looking around.
Yeah. So the fact that you've been doing this for quite a long time, are there any favorites, like investigations or favorite incidents that you use as a go back to because it's your favorite?
Yeah, it's funny. Those three big military ones that came out in like 2017 when the New York Times article came out, those three were like world changing for everyone because it led to the Pentagon admitting, yeah, we've been buzzed by many things, we don't know what they are. So those three are big ones for me in the UFO world. The Stephen Mahalik one in Manitoba from 1967 is also an interesting one because his clothes were burned, he had radiation burns, and he never ever said it was aliens. He was certain it was some kind of Apollo related test by the Americans and never thought it was aliens. That was a big one as well, and you can still go there. You can still see the site. It's just outside of Winnipeg. So that's another big one. I have, I think it's the phone I'm using for my phone. I have a screenshot of my phone, a photograph taken by a police chief in Belgium back in I think it was late 80s. He took a photo of a black triangle that was flying overhead. And it's one of the clearest photos I've ever seen of an object in the sky. And it's a big black triangle with three red, whatever they are, jet engines, whatever, underneath at each point, and it's swiveling as it goes over top of him, and he's grabbed a quick photo of it, and it's an amazing photo. So I find that one very, very interesting as well, that whole series of events outside of Brussels. But there's so many that are big.
So they're the famous ones. I know you've mentioned a couple about when you was a child, but are there any that the ones that you've seen or experienced that, again, are your go-to, that if people ask you about it, I remember when this happened?
Sure. Well, personal ones, definitely personal ones. My wife and I have a video recording of one of them, and we were out feeding the horses. It was like a January night. It was, being in northern Alberta, it was like minus 33 Celsius. It was so cold. So we ran out quickly together to feed the horses. And I had been just telling her that I've been seeing these weird flashes in the sky at night. And she had never seen them, didn't really believe me. And as we were talking over our house, all of a sudden appeared this light. And it would pulse and then flash and then zigzag over one direction, do the same thing, and then back and then up and then gone for a bit, then back again. And she was like, she couldn't believe it. And we recorded it. And we're like, you can hear it was so cold, so we sound very slow, but we're like, oh my God, that's so weird. Look at that. Oh, and that stands out for both. We still talk to her this day about that night when we saw those things. And ever since then, we see them occasionally. And we always say, oh, they're back. Oh, there they are. Like, we always talk about them. And we see them around. And then about a year ago, I was walking my dogs about sunset, and I saw this three lights in a triangle flying way off from north to south, way off to the east of me. And as I was watching, I thought, well, that's strange. I never see three. If it was a satellite, they're in a weird triangle pattern. I never see three together like that. Maybe Starlink satellites have slowly fallen apart, and two of them, they're still, I don't know, maybe they're together. They never go in that orbit when I see them. And then one of them took a right degree and took off in another direction. And I was like, what is that? And that one, I remember the feeling for days afterwards, thinking like, what did I see? That was so bizarre. So personally, those ones stand out to me only because I was personally there and saw them. Some of those big ones, though, like the Phoenix Lights back in the 90s, those things just blow my mind because tens of thousands of people saw it.
That's it. And and like you say, there can't be mass delirium for tens of thousands of people to see them.
Yeah. That was amazing because some people thought they saw a shape behind it. Some people just saw the lights, but they were there for hours and the whole city saw it.
Yeah. And one thing that I like about being alive in this time period is back in the day, if you mentioned that you was a UFO investigator or I was a paranormal investigator, you would get called nerd, weird, and a lot other more derogatory comments. But nowadays it's getting more and more popular, like we've already mentioned. And the fact that we've got the technology to look at different solar systems and go into thousands and thousands of light years away, for us to be the only living species on one planet in one solar system, we've got to be extremely naive to think that we are the only planet in thousands and millions of other stars and planets in thousands of solar systems.
For sure. Definitely not.
What's your opinion on that?
Definitely not. There's no chance of it whatsoever. Whether they're here or not, I don't know, but there definitely has to be life elsewhere. Definitely. It's not even mathematically possible to be. It's almost an infinite number of planets out there. It's not possible that one out of the infinite is the one.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And there may even be in our own solar system, maybe very rudimentary life on Europa or on moons of Jupiter or something that we don't know about, but no, definitely not. Now, whether they're coming here or not, I don't know. Certainly the physics of the universe as we understand now would make that very difficult, but I'm sure we're 100 years into physics. We're only like 100 and some years into any kind of advanced technology, really. It was only like 1905 when Einstein came up with relativity. Like, we're barely into anything understanding this universe. So who knows what things we haven't quite understood or gotten to yet that is out there.
That's right. And there could be a planet out there that's us in 1,000 years' time that has that technology.
Cool, easily, yeah. There's so many older stars than our star. There could be systems around those stars that are much, much older than us by millions of years.
Yeah. So we are coming towards the end of this, unfortunately, but I've got two key questions left.
Sure.
So, and this is brought us nicely into this next question. So, if the government were to publicly release a complete record of a UFO investigation, how do you think that would impact society?
That's a good question. I think a while back, like maybe a couple of decades ago, it might have been a shock to everyone, but I don't know so much now. We have been, and this is where popular entertainment has kind of helped a lot, like Close Encounters, X-Files, things like that have kind of blurred lines a bit for people, where science fiction particularly has helped a lot, like prepare people's minds for possible alternate realities than what we've been living in. So I think it won't be as big a shock as maybe it would have been 2 generations ago. I think now it's more of a, oh, okay, that might make sense. I think only of our own world, we're discovering that, octopus is a smart animal, smarter than maybe as smart as us. We don't know. We're discovering, like, bees communicate, trees communicate. We're discovering things about our own world that things we aren't the pinnacle of everything, that other creatures are way below us. They're complicated and intelligent creatures on this planet beyond humans. So it won't be quite so, I think, shocking to discover that there's something else.
Yeah, because I know, like, in movies and TV shows, there's either been the aliens that have come here and coexisted, or there's been the ones like in Independence Day that just want to come and pillage the planet and move on to the next.
That's right.
So it's interesting how, like, Hollywood and all the other different film companies have got this persona of what an alien invasion or a UFO invasion would be like. So, if something did happen in reality, how different would it be?
Yeah, and you know what? My favorite film about aliens coming to Earth is Arrival. I don't know if you've ever seen Arrival, and it's so different than the usual one. And it's all about a linguist trying to, and there are these giant sort of cephalopod creatures that speak with ink, but they speak their language involves time, and by learning it, she starts experiencing time a little different, and it's so alien and different. Unlike most movies where they're just sort of people, or like Star Trek where they're just sort of they're all kind of everyone's kind of human like in space.
Yeah.
They're very different, and it kind of helps set up a different kind of set. Well, this could be like it'd be like talking to dolphins. Like it could be very very different than just someone landing and talking to us and waving.
Yeah. So it's funny you just mentioned that. So my final question, and this actually came about after speaking to a Bigfoot investigator. So if you were lucky enough to experience a real UFO landing and then to encounter aliens of however they exist in their lifetime, would you announce it to the world or would you keep it to yourself?
Yeah, I would announce it. The whole thing is about sharing, and I get also that inevitably it'll become part of the lore. Like, oh, that guy lied about the aliens or whatever. It all kind of gets subsumed and attacked and ripped apart or whatever. But yeah, I would. I'm reminded of the film Contact. When Jodie Foster at the end, and no one believed her that she had gone off into seeing all these things, and they said that you were only gone for a few seconds. Like, what are you talking about? But that she did see it and she did share it, and it kind of starts. The old theory of chaos theory that the butterfly wings can cause a hurricane on the other side of the planet. It just takes a little bit to move the whole thing.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked this Bigfoot investigator and the answer that he would not release it to the public, or if he did, he would give a false location because his objective is to research these creatures, and if he found that they did exist, he wouldn't want to jeopardize that species.
Yeah,
which makes perfect sense to me.
You know how humans are. We would destroy that habitat in a minute. We'd be trampling down.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's true.
But slightly different from UFOs and aliens because they can just basically jump back in their ship and go, "Okay, see ya."
I'm pretty confident they can
and
handle
you wouldn't
themselves.
Be able.
Yeah, I'm sure if they can do all this and come here, they can handle themselves from around us. I would hope.
Exactly. Right, Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure to talking to you. Yeah,
yes,
we finally got here after all the imaginary technical issues that we had.
Right. It was
I'd love to talk to you some more.
Down. That's what that was.
Shh! Tell no one. Tell no one. Like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure. I thank you for your time, and hopefully we can talk again. Well, I'm coming to your podcast very soon.
You'll be on mine soon. You're right. That's exactly right.
Okay, my friend. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.